Hello, my name is Dale Pritchard with a Greener Image Pest Control, and I'm hosting Convos on the Coast. This is the second podcast in an ongoing series that the Apartment Association is putting together. And today's episode is entrepreneurship in the apartment industry, and we're broadcasting from Sweetwater Restoration. We have two guests as a part of this. We have Jake Brewer with Sweetwater Restoration. He's the CEO. Jake, upon graduation from the Florida State University in 2005 with a degree in business management, Jake went to work right away for his father, Don Brewer. Now with over 20 years of experience in the construction industry, Jake serves as the company's CEO, providing strategic leadership to drive the company to meet its goals. Jake also holds a Class A general contractor license in the state of Florida. Jake is married with 3 children. He loves to run, bike, spending as much time outside as he can. He also helps coach his son's cross-country and track team. Our other guest is Abe Fort. He's the Director of Real Estate with Fort Family Investments, a Jacksonville-based real estate development firm specializing in multifamily residential and commercial projects. Abe holds a bachelor's degree from Florida State University. He joined the company in 2003 after gaining experience with apartment owners in Atlanta. Abe began with Fort Family Investments as the director for the multifamily portfolio consisting of 1,540 units. Under Abe's leadership, Fort Family Investments has developed 10 multifamily communities consisting of over 3,300 apartment units, many of which have been recipients of numerous local, state, regional, and national awards. Abe, we'll start with you, if that's all right. Tell us about how you got started. What was your first job in the apartment industry? And how did you get from there to where you are? And tell us about Fort Family.
Okay. Fort Family Investments began in 1971. I can't speak very intelligently about that because I was -6 at the time, but it was started by my father and his brother, and then he went off on his own at a later date. But, he primarily did single-family developments, warehouses. We got into the apartment industry in 1989 and built the first of a 4-phase deal here in Jacksonville, and he continued that throughout the 90s, and as well as building some other 2 other properties in town. I went off to school in 96 at Florida State and found this program called housing at the time, and at first I thought they were talking about dorm rooms, but they weren't. It was an actual program within one of the colleges, and I decided to make it a minor in it, and I got really into it and decided to change my major, and graduated with my bachelor's degree. Went off to Atlanta, worked for Aimco, and then another private owner up there. And then in 2003, moved back to Jacksonville and began working with Fort Family Investments. And I was I guess you could call it a regional manager. We didn't really call it that at the time because we only had one region, so what's the point? So I just called it the property director. But basically what that entailed was running all of the multifamily assets. And then in 2011, we decided to start building again, and we've built 10 deals over the last 14 years. Well, 13 really, because we finished the last one last year, but a little over 3,300 units. And that's consumed pretty much all of my time for the last 13 years.
Very good.
So that's a Reader's Digest version, I guess you could say.
For sure. Jake, your turn. Tell us about Sweetwater Restoration and how you started and how you got here.
Sure. So I was essentially born into this. My dad was a general contractor, but he started in Houston, Texas. Construction had been a part of his life, and my mom and dad had moved to Houston, Texas, and that's where I was born. And he was building McDonald's, and basically, short story is it was some tough times, and he got laid off, and he had a friend of his that came up to him and said, well, why don't we get together and start something? And so they started the business that would become Sweetwater Restoration there. They followed a client, essentially, to Jacksonville, Florida. There was a large apartment fire right next to Jacksonville University, and so in '86, I was 3 years old. My parents packed up, moved to Jacksonville, and decided that Florida would be a good location if you're going to be a disaster reconstruction contractor.
Yeah.
So I grew up around this. I grew up knowing that my dad heads out on a Sunday night, Monday morning, and he gets home on Thursday or Friday every week, traveling, running these sort of projects. I remember Hurricane Andrew. My dad did that for a year and a half. So kind of look back and just think about the things that my mom probably went through that now I'm experiencing as a husband and a father. But just like Abe, started working for my dad pretty young in the industry, which started with just helping out, cleaning up on job sites, cleaning up his office, and just doing whatever I could do to make a little money. Just like Abe, I went to Florida State University.
Go Knowles.
Go Knowles.
There you go.
And pursued a business management degree and got that under my belt and got out, got married, and went right to work for my dad, beginning to work with him in operations. So over the course of the last 20 years, it's been 20 years this year, I started working for him. We've gone through a lot of changes, and Sweetwater Restoration, the company evolved into Sweetwater Restoration in 2015, and that was about the time that my dad started to step out of the company. I have two brothers that are also in the business. We own the business equally, run it together. My brother Matt, he's our COO. My brother Ben is our CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, and I act as our CEO. And it's been amazing. Anyone I tell that I get to run a business with my brothers, they immediately become disinterested in anything business related and just want to know how that works.
Yeah.
They just want to hear all the dirty secrets and all the things that we deal with. And but I've been very blessed. Love my brothers. We've found a way to work really well together through highs and lows. And my dad has he's continued to be a mentor and a guide and everything through this. So here we are today, now about 7 years since we bought the company from him.
Like Jake, people ask me all the time, what's it like working with your family? And I don't just work with my brother and my dad, I work with my wife too. And I really wouldn't have it any other way. I love it. We have a very healthy respect for one another, and my dad, he's one of the smartest men I know. I mean, he really is, and he's a great mentor to me and my brother, and really all of our employees. I'm hard pressed to find when there's been a major issue result from it being like a family thing. When we're at work, we're at work, and when we're not at work, we're not at work. So it just works really well.
Nice. And Jake, you mentioned, I guess, as part of your leadership with Sweetwater Restoration, you guys just hosted a company party at your dad's place out in Live Oak.
Right.
So tell us about that.
Sure. It's pretty neat. My dad, he's now a cattle rancher, part-time cattle rancher. So we have a piece of property out in the Live Oak, Jasper, Florida area on the Swanee River. And it's a really special place to us that we love to have people out. And so my mom and dad moved out there, and in their quote-unquote retirement, which is not retirement at all, my dad started a couple different businesses, and he also travels as a musician as well. And so he's getting to do that, but we use that as a place to bring our company out to bring friends and family out and enjoy it. We just had our annual company picnic where we have the entire company invite their families and come out, and we barbecue and do a hayride and bounce house and just hang out. My brother, he is really passionate about hunting, and he puts together 3 company hunts a year that everyone can sign up for on 3 different weekends. I think it's pretty smart. He gets to tell his wife 3 times a year that for an entire weekend he has to go work.
Nice.
In the woods.
Nice.
You know, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've really enjoyed that and love sharing it with people.
Nice. It's like back in the day, you know, I tell my wife, hey, I'm taking a client fishing. Be all day. And she's like, really? But she's great with it.
And now for a quick commercial break. Today's episode of Convos on the Coast is brought to you by Sweetwater Restoration, a family-owned and operated disaster restoration company proudly serving the southeastern U.S. multifamily industry. Committed to excellence, Sweetwater Restoration is dedicated to restoring communities through a higher standard. When disaster strikes, they step in and help in your time of need. To reach Sweetwater Restoration, you can visit our ambassador directory located on our website at fcaaonline.com or take a look at your screen for more ways to connect. And now back to our convo.
So, both of you running very successful businesses, I'll start with Abe. What is your biggest challenge in general at running a successful business?
I would say it's hard to name down just one big challenge. I mean, there's a few of them out there. At least for us, you know, when I began in 2003, technology was still somewhat in its infancy in the apartment industry. I mean, yeah, we had computers and we had, you know, everything wasn't working on, you know, note cards and file folders, but, you know, you had property management software programs, but they were still relatively rudimentary. Now it's like everything is done through the computer, you know, where we used to have 1 or 2 computers on a property. Now every single person has a computer. And it's not a benefit, it's a necessity. The online exposure is totally changed. And that's in every business. I get that. But the days of, the old apartment guides and For Rent magazine and all the various little books that you could pick up at Publix or Walgreens or CVS or whatever, you know, now it's all online advertising and pay-per-clicks and that sort of thing. And I'm not a huge social media person. If you know me at all, you know that I've got a very small social media footprint. And that's just my personal choice. But so it's important to have people that do understand that kind of stuff. And thank God we do. So that's, to me, that's a challenge for me because I feel like whenever I'm learning something, it's like I'm behind the curve personally. But and then, you know, something a little bit more recent, which is, let's say, post-COVID, is dealing with staffing and how, and especially this next generation coming up, having, you know, wanting either not necessarily to work from home, but more flexible schedules, and possibly, less days a week, more hours a day, that kind of stuff. These are all things that we have to think about, because if the employee base is demanding it in general, we at least need to pay attention to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get into the minutia of, very specific things like general liability insurance rising and that sort of thing because of all the Morgan & Morgans out there and the Farrah & Farrahs. Mm-hmm. But in general, those are two items that I try to keep my ear to the ground on.
Sure. I know in years past had a key employee that wanted to work from home, and I'm like, I can't even get you to work from work. We're not gonna be doing that. Yeah. So, Jake, what do you find similarities in that, or different challenges?
Oh yes, yeah, many similarities, and I will say, Gabe said, not to get into the minutia, but of course, over the past couple years, especially since COVID, just things that are constantly changing within the insurance environment, just with how we do business, the way that we would normally work through a loss and the settlement and how all that works. It's just becoming more and more complex and changing, and so the way that we did things, for the first decade of me working here, it doesn't exist anymore. And then even the ways that we worked a year ago has changed, and so it's really keeping up with and being on the front end and being a part of those solutions to those sort of changes. In general, I would say one of the biggest challenges is trying to operate more from a proactive standpoint than a reactive. I think so many things that we did for so many years, we stayed in that reactive mindset of just, we get to work and then we start going to work, and really to serve our clients the way that we want to serve them, take care of our people here at Sweetwater the way we want to take care of them. It requires a mix of both. So having people here focused on what's coming down the pipeline and strategy and looking forward and putting just as much time into that as day-to-day things that are more from that reaction side, I think is difficult, but it's something we've worked on really hard.
Yeah.
Well, I'd imagine, because you're dealing with some sort of disaster, whether it be a major natural disaster or it could be something man-made like a fire or something like that. But yeah, either way, you've got lives deeply, deeply affected in the negative way,
Right?
And that's got to be tough. You're tackling those issues.
It is. But as far as an area of construction to be in, I really enjoy it. We really enjoy it because it is very rewarding. There's a side of it where we get to come into a situation that, man, it's a mess. Whether that be a fire or a hurricane. One of the worst things I've personally seen was a tornado, just because of how chaotic and random the damage was. But you're coming into a situation like that, and this is what we do every day. This is our thing, right? And so to come in and say, hey, to a property manager particularly, right? Let us do our thing. We know what to do. We know the steps to take. We know how this is going to play out, and you need to take care of your people, your residents. And I really enjoy doing that. I mean, I've had a lot of rewarding things where our people have gone above and beyond to take care of displaced families. Where I found out about my project managers, going into a burn unit to come out, with somebody's wedding ring or, the American flag that they were given when their husband passed away, those sort of things. So getting to experience that is, in this industry, is very special. Yeah.
Sure. I would imagine kind of night and day. I know with construction and management, you kind of know what's coming next. There's always variables that are out of your control, but you kind of know when you're going to get building permits and start construction and what your lease-up program is going to be. And so we're with Jake, and that's with Abe. With Jake, it's here today, and tomorrow it's burned down.
Right.
Or blown down.
Yeah.
And man, you got to, it's a different.
It's very reactive.
It is. It's very reactive, and so that's where that proactive. So what are the things that I can do? What are the things that we can do as a team to be in the best position with capacity, with the relationship that I have with my bank, and when I need to borrow money and those sort of things, so that I can make this happen for my clients and be there. That involves a lot of close relationships with our vendors, with water mitigation companies, with roofers, that we know that we're kind of going in this together, and having that and maintaining those and just taking care of each other, so that we're able to to execute when we need to.
Nice. Both of you guys are, I'm going to say, I know Sweetwater has some another office, and you've got people in a few states, but still not a national company, a pretty much local Jacksonville, surrounding counties.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, there are the big national companies that are out there that you're competing with.
Sure.
As a smaller company, but as a still local company, what are things that you do to compete, if you will, and set yourself apart, I should say, from the large companies, the large corporations that are out there?
Well, I'll start off with one of the obstacles that a nationwide company can use to their advantage, which is their ability to transfer people from city to city, to state, that sort of thing. We don't have that ability. Our strong suit is that we are focusing just on Jacksonville, and we do live here. We're not trying to be in 20 states or 30 states. We are just, we don't advertise this, but I think a lot of our people use it as somewhat of a selling tool, in the sense that, if there's a problem with the property, one of the owners can be there that afternoon. That can't be said for many apartment owners out there. So even though we're not, some big national company, we have less than 100 employees total. We're not a large company. And biggest, in my opinion, biggest is not always best. It's very rarely best. But so I'm sure our people use that as a selling tool when describing our company. We do have enough units in Jacksonville spread out around, the parts of town that we believe people want to live in. And it's done really well for us, because we have select areas that are and we'll cluster multiple properties together, and that's done intentionally so the properties can support each other. If there's a maintenance guy down, if one property is down a maintenance guy, they can borrow one from next door. It's and that was done strategically to help with that issue. If we were a large company and we only had one property in Jacksonville, how often are the people from the corporate side really going to be there?
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I've worked for national companies before, and when I was on site, I saw my regional manager once a month.
Yeah.
So, whereas Jody, if she's not on the phone or visiting, she sees them certainly a couple of times a week, if not more.
Nice. Very good. Jake, any thoughts on that, as far as, do you have any national competition that you have to set yourself apart in what ways would that be?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really similar. I think it comes down to the agility that we have in decision making, really. If there's something that comes up that we need to address, we can address it really quickly. My team knows that they can, get myself, one of my brothers, somebody from our leadership team on the phone. We can connect, we can jump right on, and we can get decisions made. And so I think that's a huge advantage. Not as much bureaucracy. I think the other thing that comes to mind is that a lot of our larger competitors, they've grown through acquisition, and so some of the franchises or the groups that you're working with, they can be excellent, or maybe they're not. Where here at Sweetwater, where we're at, you're getting a very similar experience regardless of who you're dealing with, and so it's just the culture that we can maintain, regardless of how we're spread out. So.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I liked your terminology when you said agility in decision making. It made me think about when we're developing a property and we're working with our GC, and he's always commented with me saying, Abe, we love working with you guys for a number of reasons, but one of the big ones is you guys make decisions quickly. You guys, if it takes, if we'll get a decision back within hours if we have an issue. And a lot of these bigger companies that are out developing, they've got 8 people that have to make a decision on something relatively minute. And they all have to get together and talk about it and go back and forth. And he goes, and it just takes forever. Sometimes they have to shut jobs down because of it. He goes, not only do we not shut your jobs down, we can go faster and beat the budgeted time frame.
Sure.
So, we don't even worry about liquidated damages when we're building with Summit because we're always ahead of schedule. And I think that's attributed a lot to that, of us being able to make decisions, say, okay, what's the best decision for the asset, and let's not slow down progress.
Very good. Jake, I'll ask you, in running Sweetwater Restoration, do you ever face any obstacles that in regards to local laws or ordinances?
Oh, gosh. Things are constantly changing.
Yeah.
We do a good job, though,
Yeah.
of keeping our finger on the pulse, making sure that we are reaching out to the right people within the building department, within whatever ordinance, whether it's City of Jacksonville or whoever it is we're dealing with, but nothing that we haven't been able to come up with fast solutions for.
Yeah.
So.
Abe, I know, same question,
Yeah.
permitting and just the whole.
Yeah, when we're building something, permitting's always tough, but it's getting tougher, and what I can see specifically just for us, they've moved over to this computer-based permit submitting process, and where they want everything submitted online, and that's supposed to speed things up. It's actually just slowed it down.
Yeah.
And with all the construction that's going on in Jacksonville, they either need more reviewers, or they need to figure out another system. Used to be, if you had a small permit, let's say you wanted to build something small, a little gazebo or something. Now you're going to the exact same people that are approving a $50 million apartment community. They don't have small projects. Department was eliminated a couple of years ago, or post COVID, and it's just been a nightmare.
Yeah, that is a constant conversation every Monday morning when my team's together. It's not just. It is across the board. It's any other contractor I'm talking to is dealing with the same thing. The time to start a project has just increased, especially since COVID. And we try and get creative. We try and find new people to talk to, and I'm dealing with it, in multiple cities all over the Southeast, and it just depends on how much bureaucracy is in place, whether there's a new system in place, like Abe said. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Yeah. But it is absolutely probably one of the number one barriers to getting a project going and done and getting tenants back in units is permitting right now.
Sure.
Yep.
I know, going back a number of years, and kudos to the Apartment Association for being heavily involved with this, the City Council was looking at requiring an HVAC license to do anything with your, same thing with like hot water heaters. The maintenance guys are changing out hot water heaters. They were. Maintenance personnel are changing the thermostats and air filters, and the city was ready to pass a law that all of that had to be done by a licensed contractor. Mm-hmm. Air filters.
Anything north of like changing a light bulb, I think.
It was crazy. And we, rallied the troops, as it were, and spoke with our various councilmen, councilwomen, and we filled City Hall one night for a city council meeting. The standing room only. I don't know how many seats, 100, 150 seats, maybe more. standing room only, and we had picked certain people rather than all of us trying to labor the point. We had a few key people that stood in front of the council and said, look, here's what this means. You know, our costs are going to skyrocket. And there's not enough contractors to do the work that you're wanting to be done. They're not going to come change filters when they can go out and install a 5,000 ton unit or whatever. And that, sure enough, the city council rethought it and came up with some sort of licensing that you could get as a maintenance tech. And Chris could probably speak to that better than I can. I was involved, that was years ago, but Apartment Association was amazing when it came to that. So, Jake, future plans for the market. What do you see, what Sweetwater, is any new things coming on board with you, or kind of status quo, or?
No, nothing is status quo ever. It's, certainly, always pushing forward, always wanting to grow, not for growth's sake, just as far as numbers go, but always just wanting to improve and find other ways that we can, serve our clients, serve the industry. So for us, we have really focused on disaster restoration work, specifically with multifamily for many, many years. And one of the things that we've been asked to do is to be more a part of CapEx work, bidding remodels and things like that. And those are projects that we've done and can do very well, but haven't focused on and haven't had a team really focused on. And so that's a new thing for us this year. We're starting another division. I've already got people hired and in place, and we're beginning to do that work. And so we want to be able to serve in that way. So we're working on that, and just also growing a little bit regionally. My team is very involved in Orlando and Tampa as well, and starting to work more and more in Georgia and Tennessee, and just really getting out there to the places that the clients that have been great partners to us, that they have a footprint and want us to be. And so we're going for it and do what we can do. Yeah.
Very good. Abe, you guys still building?
Not right now. We finished up Pinnacle middle of last year, and like a lot of developers, they're starts are slowing down, not just in Jacksonville, it's nationally and statewide and nationally. We're looking at the analytics of unit absorption. We've got a lot of vacant units out there around the city, and we would feel more comfortable to wait it out a little bit and see these units get absorbed before we add any more units into the market. But with that being said, from the first step to opening your doors, you could be talking about 18 months now. Complete finishing, every bit of 2 years. So I'm usually looking out on it from a development side when I talk to my dad and my brother about it, and Jody obviously, and Connie, our vice president. We're already assuming 18 to 24 months. What are we going to be looking at? And that's certainly enough time. We'll continue to see some absorption throughout 2025 and early 2026, early to mid 2026. Not to say units won't be built; they will. There's a lot of guys out there that just they're going to build, and that's fine. But for right now, we're taking a little breather. I mean, we've had 1 to 2 projects going consistently for the last 11 years. That's a lot for us. So 12 years, 13, I don't know. Anyway, and so it's and if we do, I mean, we've already got the dirt for one piece for phase 2 to a project, so that will be our next deal most likely. It'll be a smaller deal, but we're almost ready to go into permitting on that one. So, but we can hold off for a little bit. It's not gonna really hurt us one way or the other. But who knows? Who knows what, end of 2025, 2026, beginning of 2026 looks like. But we'll certainly know more in the next few months.
Any charities that you guys are involved with as a company? Yes.
Well, yeah. Gosh, there's, Jacksonville Humane Society, Pace Center for Girls. We've partnered with the city of Jacksonville, which isn't a charity, obviously, but although it kind of feels like it is one sometimes.
Yeah.
With the Fort Family Regional Park, and Toys for Tots. I'd have to consult our website, but I mean, I'm not.
Sure.
I'm not directly involved in a lot of that. That's handled from with Jody and Cartel and that, and a lot of the property managers. But yeah, it's whenever we see a need that we can help fulfill, we try to do
Nice.
that.
Sure.
Jake?
Yeah, in a similar way, there's many that we've been a part of and given to. But like Abe said, if we find out about a need, particularly we look for things that our people are passionate about, or maybe they even have a need themselves. How can we step in and be a part of this or support something that they're doing? And so we do that. One thing I'd like to mention, really good friend of mine and kind of mentor in the business, Ryan Schmidt with Petticoat Schmidt. They do an amazing thing called Digger Day, and he's a heavy civil contractor here in town, and they were a part of putting this thing together, and we were a part of just given to that this year. But it funds the Child Cancer Fund, which happens to that's who my mother-in-law. She works for Nemours that's funded through Child Cancer Fund. It's a really neat. Basically, they work with the families of kids who are going through cancer, and it's pretty cool, man. They take an active site that they're doing development at, and these kids get to come out and get on tractors and backhoes, and they set up obstacle courses and
Nice.
that sort of thing. So really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and my dad personally donates considerably to the Wolfson Children's Hospital. That's near and dear to his heart.
Nice.
Personal story, that was when I was born. They saved my life. So without going into too much detail,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be here without them.
Yeah.
So
Great place, great reputation. You go anywhere with a child, and they're like, nope, take them to Wolfson. The association's always done great things with charity, I know, and it's been great to be a part of that.
yeah, and that's one of the great things about the association, because they can collectively get all these management companies and owners together and collectively do something.
Sure.
Where the whole can be more than the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
So
Sure. Oh, well, very good. That's it's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. We had everything but a beer, and enjoyed that. And just think so much of both of you and what you've accomplished, and as local entrepreneurs in the apartment industry, and it's become your lives, which is awesome.
Well, thank you guys for having us. Jake, thank you for hosting.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I just very much appreciate First Coast Apartment Association, what that's meant to our business, the way that we've been able to get involved over the years and not support, but also be supported heavily by FCAA. Very, very grateful.
Yeah, great work. All right, I think we'll wrap it up.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chris with MAA, the Regional Service Manager and the Maintenance Liaison for the First Coast Apartment Association. And you are here for your Maintenance Minute. Today, I'm here to talk about a topic that is so vitally important to our properties, and that's preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance is a variety of items that we consistently need to address daily. This can be anything from golf carts, checking smoke detectors, HVAC, and even curb appeal. The main purpose of this is to preserve the life of our equipment. This, in return, will definitely save money in the long run. One of the biggest excuses I hear is, I don't have time. Well, I have great news. Sure you do, and it's actually very simple. The main component is time management, and it's easy to do even with everything else you have going on. Number one, once a week, check the batteries in your golf carts. Check your cables, check your tires. Number two is on your turns. This is a big opportunity to take care of the majority of your preventative maintenance. Check and clean coils and blower motors is crucial. I mean, who wants to get called out in the evening after somebody moves in for no AC? And number three, when you complete a work order, take an extra minute to look around for any other issues and check your smoke detectors and filters. Manage your time wisely. If you implement this PM, it will become part of the daily tasks, and I guarantee you, you will complete 50% or more of your PM on your properties yearly and will make your life a whole lot easier and less stressful. Again, the whole process of preserving our assets is to save time and money. This will make your life easier by not getting those annoying weekend and after-hour calls. I promise you that you will see a reduction in your after-hour call percentage as well as a reduction in work orders. We all love our downtime, right? So put together your plan of action and make it happen. I appreciate all you do and keep pushing forward. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Convos on the Coast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to frequently visit our website, follow us on LinkedIn, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where new episodes will be dropped. If you're interested in having us record at your community or facility, maybe you have a topic you would like for us to cover, or you're interested in sponsoring an episode, be sure to fill out the form on our Convos on the Coast webpage. And we'll see you for our next convo.